Every MVP race leaves behind numbers that tell one story and voters who choose another. A 67-15 record can lose weight after a first-round collapse. A 31.6-point triple-double can outweigh 55 team wins. The award is measured by data but decided by context, and the gap between the two defines how history remembers it. McCann 1950. George McCann enters 1950 as the defining presence of the league's young decade, standing 6'10" and averaging 23.1 points per game across a 68-game schedule. The Minneapolis Lakers, coming off a merger between the BAA and NBL just 1 year earlier, established themselves as the first dynasty with a 51-17 record. Writers at the time debate his importance because the NBA does not yet sanction an official Most Valuable Player award, leaving newspapers to decide the question with editorials and year-end columns. The debate intensifies when McCann fractures several bones in his face mid-season, missing stretches that could have sunk Minneapolis. Instead, he returns wearing a protective mask and still controls the postseason, guiding the Lakers through the 1950 finals. With no MVP hardware to validate his case, his dominance is remembered only in scattered box scores and anecdotal praise. The absence of a formal award system in this era sets the stage for later arguments about how value should be measured when the league begins formal voting in 1956. Cousy 1957. Bob Cousy becomes the first man to claim an official NBA Most Valuable Player award in 1957, finishing the season with 20.6 points and 7.5 assists per game. The Boston Celtics closed the year at 44-28, doing so before Bill Russell plays his first full season with the team. Writers emphasize Cousy's vision and leadership on the floor, describing his role as orchestrating Boston's fast break identity in a league still adjusting to the 24-second clock. His statistical profile, however, is uneven. He converts just 37% of his field goal attempts, a weakness that modern analysts would highlight immediately. The key lies in what media outlets valued in the 1950s. Playmaking and intangible leadership outweighed efficiency metrics that had not yet entered public vocabulary. Cousy's flair for passing, his command of possessions, and his reputation as the Houdini of the hardwood translate into votes even as his scoring profile looks inefficient by later standards. The inaugural award reflects a league still learning how to balance entertainment value, statistical dominance, and team record when measuring most valuable. The Celtics' next step, pairing Cousy with a rookie Russell, reshapes the entire definition of value moving into the late 1950s. Pettit 1959. Bob Pettit secures the 1959 MVP by producing 29.2 points and 16.4 rebounds per game, leading the St. Louis Hawks to a 49-23 record and the top seed in the Western Division. At 6'9", Pettit remains one of the few forwards capable of dominating both inside scoring and rebounding in an era still ruled by traditional centers. His consistency across the regular season, rarely dipping below 20 points, anchors a Hawks team that lacks a second superstar to match the Celtics' emerging dynasty. The award recognizes not just volume scoring, but the stabilizing role Pettit provides across 80 games. The decision gains extra weight because it arrives during Wilt Chamberlain's rookie season, when the 7-on-1 center averages a record-breaking 37.6 points and 27 rebounds. Writers face the question of whether to reward unprecedented numbers or established leadership on a contending team, and they choose the latter. Voters prioritize Pettit's reliability, his track record of leading St. Louis to contention, and his ability to keep the Hawks competitive against Boston. The balance tilts toward veteran stability instead of immediate spectacle, setting a precedent for how early MVP ballots often favored proven winners. The next major shift comes as Russell's Celtics cement their dominance and redefine the award's criteria. Wilt, 1962. Wilt Chamberlain posts a season unmatched in scoring volume, recording 50.4 points and 25.7 rebounds per game across 80 contests for the Philadelphia Warriors. On March 2nd, he scores 100 points against the New York Knicks in Hershey, Pennsylvania, a single-game mark that still stands untouched. He plays over 48 minutes per night because Coach Frank McGuire often leaves him on the floor for entire games, including overtime, a workload no modern star approaches. His individual dominance is indisputable, but it does not automatically convert into MVP recognition. The Warriors finish 49-31, good for second in the Eastern Division, but far behind Boston's 60-20 record. Voters hold team success as the defining factor, rewarding Bill Russell's Celtics, despite Chamberlain more than doubling Russell's scoring output. Russell secures the award because his defensive impact, his rebounding at 23.6 per game, and his leadership on the league's best roster align with the ballot's priorities. Chamberlain's extraordinary year demonstrates that raw numbers alone cannot guarantee the trophy. The precedent strengthens the link between team records and individual awards, a tension that will continue to surface in later MVP races. Oscar 1964. Oscar Robertson reaches near mythical statistical balance in 1964, averaging 31.4 points, 11.0 assists, and 9.9 rebounds per game for the Cincinnati Royals. He narrowly misses becoming the first player to average a triple-double across a full season, but still drives his team to a 55-25 record, the second-best mark in the league. Cincinnati posts the top offensive rating by pace, fueled by Robertson's ability to both create shots and orchestrate possessions at a volume unmatched by peers. His season sets new benchmarks for what a guard can contribute across all phases of play. Yet voters remain anchored to the Boston dynasty, giving the award to Bill Russell even as his scoring drops to 15.0 points per game. Russell secures the MVP with 24.7 rebounds and 4.3 assists, while anchoring the Celtics' 59-21 finish, a team mark better than Cincinnati's by 4 wins. Media of the era value winning margins and defensive control more than multi-category brilliance, so Robertson's near triple-double becomes more trivia than recognition. This contrast cements a long-standing tension between rewarding statistical revolution and honoring championship infrastructure, a pattern that resurfaces in later MVP disputes. Kareem 1973. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar closes the 1972-73 regular season with overwhelming statistical control, averaging 30.2 points and 16.1 rebounds while shooting above 55% from the field. The Milwaukee Bucks finish 55-27, the best record in the Western Conference, and secure home court advantage throughout the playoffs. At age 25, Kareem already owns 2 MVPs and a Finals MVP, making him the most dominant interior scorer and rim protector of the era. His efficiency and consistency mark him as the clear statistical leader in nearly every advanced category available at the time. Yet the award goes instead to Dave Cowens, whose Boston Celtics win 68 games, while he averages 20.5 points and 16.2 rebounds across 82 starts. Voters appear influenced by Boston's single-season win total, combined with fatigue over awarding Kareem a 3rd straight MVP. Cowens represents the prototype of hustle and versatility, diving on loose balls and switching defensively, traits that appealed to media narratives about teamwork and effort. Kareem's dominance is too familiar to generate new headlines, so Cowens becomes the face of 1973's award despite trailing in nearly every measurable metric. The choice highlights how media often weighs storyline and novelty above sustained excellence, a theme that echoes throughout later MVP debates. The outcome also positions Kareem to reassert himself in subsequent seasons, as voter hesitation proves only temporary before his dominance forces recognition again. Dr. J. 1976. Julius Erving closes the ABA's final season with a performance that cements his place as the league AES defining figure. Playing for the New York Nets, Erving averages 29.3 points, 11.0 rebounds, and 5.0 assists, while carrying the team to a 55-29 record. He dominates both ends of the floor, leading the league in total points scored and finishing top 5 in steals, a reflection of his all-around influence. His combination of scoring and playmaking secures him the final ABA MVP award, a symbolic passing of the torch as the merger approaches. Erving then drives the Nets through the postseason, ultimately winning the 1976 ABA championship in a 6-game series against the Denver Nuggets. His impact is so overwhelming that he records at least 30 points in 4 of those finals games, lifting New York to its 2nd title in 3 years. The 1976 award demonstrates how structural change in the sport can bury even elite statistical dominance under larger institutional shifts. The merger narrative overtakes Irving's peak season, and the spotlight shifts toward how he adapts to the NBA stage. Gervin, 1978. George Gervin leads the league in scoring with 33.1 points per game, edging David Thompson for the title by just 0.07 points after a 63-point performance in the season finale. His San Antonio Spurs finish 52-30, winning the Central Division and earning the franchise its first top seed since joining the NBA from the ABA. Gervin's offensive efficiency, marked by shooting 50% from the field despite a high-volume role, positions him as the premier perimeter scorer of the era. The statistics make his case strong, but voters lean in a different direction. That year, Bill Walton earns the MVP despite playing only 58 games for the Portland Trail Blazers. Walton's 18.9 points, 13.2 rebounds, and defensive presence helped Portland to a 58-24 record, the league's second best. The decision reflects how voters prioritize team record and two-way impact over pure scoring volume, even when that scoring is historically efficient. Gervin ES runner-up finish highlights a shift in MVP standards toward rewarding complete team anchors rather than offensive specialists. The 1978 race demonstrates how fragile scoring titles can be compared to broader narratives of winning and defense. The outcome leaves Gervin with the numbers, but Walton with the trophy, and sets the stage for another contested race the following season. Moses, 1982. Moses Malone posts 31.6 points and 14.7 rebounds per game for Houston in the 1981-82 season, marking the most productive year of his career. His rebounding totals include a league-leading 557 offensive boards, highlighted by a single game where he secures 17 on that end alone. Houston finishes just 46-36, a record that typically disqualifies players from MVP consideration because voters usually reward the league's best teams. Malone's numbers, however, make the case that his personal impact outweighs his roster's limitations, since no other player sustains that level of scoring and rebounding volume in the same year. The voting reflects how far individual dominance can override team performance when the numbers are historically out of reach. Malone edges out Larry Bird, who averages 22.9 points, 10.9 rebounds, and leads Boston to 63 wins because voters prioritize Malone's unmatched efficiency and relentlessness on the boards. It is one of the few seasons where a middle seed player wins the award, setting a precedent that raw productivity can outweigh standings under exceptional circumstances. The result reinforces that MVP standards are not fixed, and in this case the league chooses dominance in the paint over wins at the top of the standings. The following year, Malone joins Philadelphia and immediately shifts from individual survivor to centerpiece of a title favorite, setting up another controversial MVP debate in 1983. Magic, 1989. Magic Johnson directs the Lakers to a 57-25 record in 1989, the best mark in the Western Conference and a continuation of Los Angeles's decade-long dominance. He averages 22.5 points, 12.8 assists, and 7.9 rebounds per game, functioning as both scorer and orchestrator in an offense that still ranks top 3 in efficiency. Johnson's value shows most clearly in pace and spacing, as the Lakers generate nearly 8 more possessions per game with him initiating compared to when he sits. The combination of record and distribution numbers makes his case stronger than almost anyone else in the field. The competition centers on Michael Jordan, who posts 32.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists per game, while Chicago finishes 47-35. Jordan's per-game output clearly surpasses Magic's, yet his team lacks the wins that voters consistently require, so Johnson edges him in the final tally. The debate crystallizes the old tension in the award. Whether the best player or the most valuable player deserves priority when resumes differ on both team and individual lines. In 1989, voters side with the conference leading guard over the league's most dominant scorer. That logic holds until the following season, when Jordan improves his Bulls to 55 wins and captures his first MVP, showing how quickly the balance between team success and individual dominance can shift. Barkley, 1993. Charles Barkley arrives in Phoenix for the 1992-93 season and immediately alters the team's trajectory, pushing the Suns to a league-best 62-20 record. He records 25.6 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 5.1 assists per game, producing one of the most balanced stat lines by a forward in the era. Phoenix leads the league in offensive efficiency and pace because Barkley not only scores at the rim but also initiates fast breaks and draws double teams that open space for perimeter shooters. The total effect makes the Suns a turnaround from a 53-29 team into a 62-win contender directly traceable to his arrival. Michael Jordan provides the main challenge, averaging 32.6 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 5 assists, while Chicago finishes 57-25. Statistically, Jordan remains the superior scorer, but Barkley's team performance carries decisive weight with voters who prioritize the best regular season record. The MVP result highlights the tension between individual dominance and collective success, as Barkley's case rests less on raw scoring and more on impact across every possession. Jordan uses the outcome as fuel, later framing it as part of the motivation for his finals performance against Phoenix. That summer series delivers a final verdict, as Jordan averages 41 points and defeats Barkley's Suns in 6 games, underscoring how the MVP race can diverge from postseason outcomes. Malone, 1997. Karl Malone anchors Utah to a 64-18 record, the best in franchise history, while averaging 27.4 points, 9.9 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. At age 33, he carries the Jazz offense through consistent post play, mid-range accuracy, and durability across 82 games. Utah finishes with the league's second-best record, trailing only Chicago. And Malone's statistical balance convinces many voters that his overall contribution matches or exceeds any single scoring figure. His recognition reflects both his steady decade-long dominance and his team's rise into legitimate championship contention. Michael Jordan counters with 29.6 points per game and leads the Bulls to 69-13, just 2 years after posting the record 72-10 season. Statistically, Jordan still edges Malone in scoring while matching him in efficiency, and Chicago's superior win total strengthens the argument for another MVP. However, media voters push toward Malone, citing Jordan's repeated dominance and the perception that others deserve recognition after years of his awards. The vote margin is narrow, suggesting the outcome stems more from narrative fatigue than a decisive statistical edge. The finals bring the race into direct confrontation, as Chicago defeats Utah in 6 games behind Jordan's 32.3 points per game and his 5th finals MVP. The contrast between Malone's regular season honor and Jordan's postseason superiority cements this as one of the closest and most debated MVP races of the era. Iverson, 2001. Allen Iverson drives Philadelphia to a 56-26 record, the best in the Eastern Conference, while averaging 31.1 points and 4.6 assists across 71 games. His relentless shot creation and defensive pressure allow the Sixers to build an offense around his pace, despite a roster short on secondary scorers. At just 5'11", Iverson becomes the smallest player ever to win the award, and his production defines the league's shift toward guard-led systems. His nightly workload includes more than 42 minutes per game, the highest in the league that year. Shaquille O'Neal, by comparison, produces 28.7 points, 12.7 rebounds, and 2.8 blocks for the Lakers, while commanding double teams across nearly every possession. His efficiency and interior dominance appear unmatched, but the Lakers finish only 56-26, the same record as Philadelphia, raising the question of value between a guard carrying limited help and a center with a proven co-star in Kobe Bryant. Voters side with Iverson's ability to elevate a less talented roster, creating one of the most debated MVP outcomes of the early 2000s. The decision fuels contrasting postseason narratives, as Iverson leads the Sixers to the finals with his iconic Game 1 performance in Los Angeles, while O'Neal secures a second straight Finals MVP with averages of 33.0 points and 15.8 rebounds. The 2001 race therefore illustrates how voters weigh narrative, team context, and individual production, setting the stage for future debates over value beyond raw dominance. Nash, 2005. Phoenix transforms its identity in 2005 by running the fastest-paced offense in the league, finishing with a 62-20 record, the best in the NBA. Steve Nash directs that system with 15.5 points and 11.5 assists per game, orchestrating a lineup that produces 110.4 points per night, nearly 7 points higher than any other team. His impact extends beyond numbers, because his distribution accelerates Amar E. Stoudemir's scoring leap to 26.0 points, while also creating open threes for Joe Johnson and Quentin Richardson. Nash's plus-minus rating, then a newer metric, also leads all players in overall efficiency during the regular season. Critics argue the award should have gone to Shaquille O'Neal, who averages 22.9 points and 10.4 rebounds while lifting Miami to a 59-23 record, the best in the East. O'Neal's defensive presence and offensive efficiency remain unmatched in the paint, and his arrival turns the Heat into immediate contenders. However, voters emphasize Phoenix's leap from 29 wins the year prior to 62, framing Nash's orchestration as the primary reason for the turnaround. The debate, therefore, becomes less about traditional box score dominance and more about the definition of value. Whether impact on team performance outweighs raw production, Nash secures the award as the first point guard MVP since Magic Johnson, while O'Neal publicly questions the criteria, ensuring the controversy will extend into the following season. Dirk, 2007. Dallas posts the league's best record in 2007 at 67-15, building on the consistency of Dirk Nowitzki's scoring and floor spacing efficiency. Nowitzki averages 24.6 points and 8.9 rebounds per game while joining the elite 50-40-90 shooting club, the first forward in NBA history to reach that benchmark. His ability to stretch defenses at 7 feet tall reshapes offensive spacing because it forces opposing big men out of the paint and opens driving lanes for Dallas guards. The Mavericks outscore opponents by more than 7 points per game, signaling dominance that voters reward with the regular season MVP. However, the recognition quickly turns into controversy when Dallas collapses in the opening round of the playoffs against Golden State. The We Believe Warriors, seeded 8th at 42-40, eliminate the Mavericks in 6 games, with Stephen Jackson and Baron Davis exploiting Dallas's perimeter defense. Nowitzki struggles in the series, shooting 38% from the field, and the defeat marks the first time a 67-win team loses its opening playoff matchup. The optics of accepting the award while his team exits early shape much of the narrative around his season. As a result, the 2007 MVP is remembered less for statistical dominance and more for the gap between regular season value and postseason failure. The controversy sets the stage for discussions about whether voters should consider playoff resilience when awarding the regular season honor, a debate that continues into Kobe Bryant's 2008 campaign. Rose 2011 Derrick Rose becomes the youngest MVP in league history at age 22, leading the Chicago Bulls to a 62-20 record, the best mark in the NBA. Rose averages 25.0 points and 7.7 assists per game, carrying an offense that lacks a consistent secondary scorer. His ability to attack off the dribble and finish through contact defines Chicago's late-game possessions, while Tom Thibodeau's defensive system limits opponents to just 91.3 points per game, the lowest in the league. Because of that balance, the Bulls finish with both the top seed and the league's best defensive rating. Meanwhile, LeBron James records 27.1 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.0 assists per game during his debut season in Miami. Statistically, James remains the league's most efficient all-around player, but voter sentiment shifts because of the perception of the Heat's super team. Rose's individual workload, contrasted with Miami's shared offense, becomes the deciding factor for many ballots. Narrative plays a more visible role here than in most MVP votes, framing Rose as the player standing against the era's most controversial roster move. The outcome highlights the tension between statistical dominance and honoring narrative-driven value. Rose's MVP season is remembered both as a historic rise for a young point guard and as a referendum on James' choice to leave Cleveland. That dynamic sets the stage for how voters evaluate super teams and solo stars through the rest of the decade. Westbrook 2017. Russell Westbrook becomes the second player in league history to average a triple-double across an entire season, recording 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists. He surpasses Oscar Robertson's long-standing record by collecting 42 triple-doubles, 4 more than Robertson managed in 1962. Oklahoma City, however, finishes only 47-35, placing 6th in the Western Conference and far from title contention. The Thunder's roster lacks another all-star, so Westbrook carries both the scoring load and the late-game creation almost entirely alone. His usage rate climbs above 40%, the highest ever recorded at the time. Voters interpret the achievement as a singular historical milestone that outweighs his team's modest win total. Meanwhile, James Harden averages 29.1 points and leads the league in assists at 11.2, while guiding Houston to 55 wins and the 3rd seed. Statistically, his case rivals Westbrook's, especially with superior team efficiency and overall record. Yet Harden's production comes in Mike D'Antoni's fast-paced offense, where voters argue his numbers reflect system benefits as much as individual dominance. Westbrook's nightly accumulation of points, rebounds, and assists feels unprecedented and generates momentum with highlight finishes and last-minute shots. The award illustrates how historical context can outweigh seeding, since the 6th-place finish does not prevent Westbrook from becoming the league's most valuable player. That decision shapes future debates about whether statistical milestones should outweigh team success, setting the stage for the Giannis and Jokic races that follow. Harden 2018. James Harden leads Houston to a franchise-best 65-17 record, the top mark in the entire league. He averages 30.4 points, 8.8 assists, and 5.4 rebounds, ranking 1st in scoring while maintaining elite playmaking responsibilities. The Rockets' win streaks reach double digits 3 separate times, and their offensive efficiency sets a new league standard under Mike D'Antoni's pace and space system. Harden's step-back three-pointer becomes a defining weapon, producing both high volume and high efficiency from the perimeter. The combination of league-best record and individual production leaves little room for debate among voters. This season is often cited as the clearest example of Harden's peak. LeBron James, in his 15th season, posts 27.5 points, 9.1 assists, and 8.6 rebounds, while carrying Cleveland through roster turnover and mid-season trades. His numbers rival Harden's, especially in terms of all-around impact, but the Cavaliers finish only 50, 32, and 4th in the East. The separation in team performance proves decisive because Harden's Rockets not only secure the best record, but also achieve it in the stronger Western Conference. The MVP voting reflects this gap, awarding Harden the honor with near-unanimous support. The following year, however, Harden's even greater scoring surge collides with Giannis Antetokounmpo's rise, showing how shifting narratives can redirect MVP recognition. Giannis 2020 Milwaukee records a 56-17 mark in a season shortened to 73 games because of the March suspension and restart in Orlando. Giannis Antetokounmpo produces 29.5 points, 13.6 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per night, anchoring both the league's most efficient offense and its top-rated defense. His 31.9 player efficiency rating stands as one of the highest ever, demonstrating dominance on both ends in limited minutes. The Bucks win at a 70-win pace before the shutdown, and Antetokounmpo secures his 2nd consecutive MVP in a landslide. Voters emphasize regular season dominance despite looming post-season questions. LeBron James posts 25.3 points, 10.2 assists, and 7.8 rebounds, while guiding the Lakers to a 52-19 record, 1st in the West. His role as full-time lead distributor highlights a shift in his late career impact, and his team later wins the championship in the Orlando bubble. However, the MVP voting takes place before the playoffs, and Antetokounmpo's statistical profile combined with Milwaukee's superior record overwhelms LeBron's narrative. The bubble postseason, where the Bucks exit in the 2nd round, reshapes perceptions but does not affect the 2020 award. The following season, Jokic's durability and all-around production create a new standard for MVP debates. Jokic 2022. Nikola Jokic closes the 2021-22 campaign with 27.1 points, 13.8 rebounds, and 7.9 assists per game, producing the first season in league history with 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists. Denver posts a 48-34 record while missing Jamal Murray for the entire year and Michael Porter Jr. for all but 9 games, leaving Jokic as the team's lone star. His 32.8 player efficiency rating ranks as the highest single-season mark ever recorded, quantifying unprecedented all-around impact. Voters weigh both context and advanced metrics, and Jokic secures back-to-back MVPs. His candidacy illustrates how data-driven evaluations expand beyond traditional scoring races. Joel Embiid leads the league at 30.6 points per game, becoming the first center since Shaquille O'Neal in 2000 to win a scoring title. Philadelphia finishes 51-31, a stronger record than Denver, and many observers argue Embiid's narrative better fits the classic MVP profile. However, Jokic's unique statistical output, combined with carrying a shorthanded roster to the sixth seed, persuades voters that value must encompass more than team wins. The debate over stat MVP versus traditional criteria intensifies, setting the stage for Embiid's eventual 2023 award. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.